Welcome back to the BitGeek podcast and the conclusion of our epic top 20 arcade countdown. This week we're into the top 10, whereas last week we were doing the 20 through 11. So, you know, here we are. It's the Big 10. You know, now we're getting into more of the arcade games that we had some. You know, we agreed on a lot more of these games.
Yeah. Where before it was like a lot of like, well, you know, one of us had that on our list, and therefore it kind of made the, you know, if it ranked high on our list, it made the top 20 or whatever, however many we had. But yeah, there's more that we agreed on, I think, here. Yeah,
well, it's like you were saying, I think in the last episode, is, you know, each of our like 11 through 20 just kind of got wiped out. Like it really didn't matter. Right, yeah. We did each of our honorable mentions, so we kind of took our favorite of those 10 just so they get a mention. You know, like I had Space Invaders, and Martin, you know, he picked one, but he was probably disappointed also that he kind of snuck Joust in there. I feel
like. You gotta have Joust, right? You know.
And what's in that new movie, that arcade, Ready Player One? There's like a really key moment in that movie.
Oh, really?
In that book where Joust plays like a big part of that. So, you know, no doubt that Joust is a big deal, but. You know, but so the top 10, we're having more uniformity in our list. You know, like if it's in the top 5, it's probably because all three of us had it in our top 10 or top 15. You know, starting out with, well, with the exception of our number 10, I feel like maybe we all didn't have it in our list, but you really had it high in your list, and that's
yeah, well, so just go into
No, Nick, you reveal the list.
Yeah, so number 10 was versus Super Mario Brothers.
Yep.
Right, and so I ranked that as 3. That's how that got so high.
Way high.
And I was the only one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did not have that on mine.
I didn't even think of it as I don't even think of it as an arcade, honestly. You know, it's like one of those games where it's strictly NES in my mind, and I almost want to say that, you know, whereas you've seen it in the wild, I never saw it in the wild other than like Play Choice 10.
Yeah. But that's not it.
I know. You're talking about a different game. Like it actually says versus Super Mario.
The Play Choice 10 was like the Nintendo version of it, where Versus is a harder game.
The actual arcade version of it.
Yeah, there are a few differences in the arcade versus the NES version.
Yes.
Like what were some of the big not big differences?
Well, it's like power-ups are in different locations. Pits, there might be like a pit where you weren't expecting one, so if you're used to playing the NES version that you're running along, you'll run straight into a pit and die. Because
that's tricky.
They threw in a little things just to make it a little harder for arcades.
They play on your muscle memory.
You know how they do it. They want to get your quarters. But yeah, I really liked the artwork, like on the marquee for versus Super Mario Brothers. That stands out a lot to me the few times. I mean, because like you say, you've never seen it in the arcades. I've only seen it a few times. But
maybe that makes it even more special, though. It's kind of one of those, you know, for me, there are some games that I hold in higher regard just because the rarity of the game, I guess.
Yeah.
So it feels more special to me. Games like, you know, Dragon's Lair, things like that. Maybe you saw it once or twice, and so when you saw that marquee, and it's just so different than what you're used to, and plus, your brother had mentioned it to you too, right? Didn't he see it first?
Yeah. There's. I think I've told this story before about how he came to me. I don't remember where it was he saw it, but like he came saying.
I remember it was a bowling alley. And I remember distinctly going, "Mark at the bowling alley."
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I guess it was a bowling alley. I don't really remember, but yeah, there's a sequel to Mario Brothers, and he's kind of describing it and everything, and I'm just amazed.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Because I mean, you know, we were big fans of Mario Brothers at the time, and so
for sure. I mean,
this was the big sequel to Mario Brothers, which is kind of interesting because nobody really sees it that way anymore. It's like Super Mario Brothers is like its own separate thing now that has its own sequels.
Yes.
which when that started out, it's like that was the sequel.
Yeah.
Not like the first game starting a new revolution.
That's a good point, yeah. Like I always think of them as they're like Mario Brothers is the one-off game to like the franchise that's Super Mario, but really, like you said, it was a follow-up to Mario Brothers.
And it seems like Mario Brothers is always overlooked, right? Yeah. It didn't even come to my mind when I was putting my list together. I hate to say it.
Well, we had a bit of confusion too when we were like talking about the list.
Yeah, when I was saying it, you all thought I was talking about Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, no, versus Super Mario Brothers.
I've seen like videos too of it. Like another difference, isn't there like purple lava in the castles too?
What?
Like Bowser's castle. Like I think I saw like purple lava or something like that. Am I not remembering that?
I don't
correctly?
know about that.
So,
what were you on when you were playing that game?
I might have been on some pills. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember that. But some of the boards I think had like a purple hue like to the sky.
Maybe that was what I'm remembering.
I don't remember.
But the jumps were wicked.
Some purple
and they had the
there.
wind.
So yeah, some of the boards much later on, like I don't remember which ones they are. It's like 5, 6, or 7, something like that. That it would have the wind effects, like how Super Mario Bros. 2, the Japanese version, had. That you jump on a trampoline and you just kind of see like these like little pixels that kind of represent
indicates
the wind.
Motion of wind.
Yeah. And you just kind of like take off.
And it's designed, of course, to take your quarters. So
you're like, there's just like just this like gigantic pit like a mile long, and you just don't even see yourself for like a good like 5 seconds.
It's like, trusting that you're gonna land.
Yeah.
It's like early game physics, right? Not that great.
Well, I was but you were talking about how like glorious that marquee was in your mind, and then I saw we have the video footage that we're playing over the top of this, and we're on your cabinet, and you had the versus Super Mario marquee, and we put it up on the
yeah, that was one I specifically sought out.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It is cool, I have to admit, and it's got that distinct Nintendo look that the arcades had, and
I was realizing too that really that artwork is pretty much the same artwork, just colorized, that's in the instruction manual. That how there's those kind of little black and white line drawings, like where like Mario would pick up the mushroom and it kind of shows him growing big, and it would demonstrate like jumping on Goombas and stuff. That it's that same style that I didn't really realize until I kind of was looking at it the other day.
Where did you see it again? Like we established like where we thought maybe Mark had seen it. But where did you see it?
There was I forget what it was, like a little. It wasn't a 7-Eleven, but that kind of like a convenience store kind of thing. I don't remember the name of it, but there was like a little convenience store that was across the street from my church, and they had it there for a short period of time, and I remember playing it there.
Was it called like Convenient Mart? Or something? Okay. Because I remember there was like a chain that like around.
There was also the Village 8 movie theater. It wasn't the theater, but there was like a little indoor miniature golf place that was next door to that.
Yeah.
And I saw it there.
Oh wow.
And that's all I can remember.
Huh. I wonder why I never really got to see it though.
And there's another time I saw it like at some arcade in California.
I don't even think I've ever seen it in the expos or anything. Like, do you remember seeing it in the expos?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn. You'll have to point it out to me if we come across it.
Yeah,
I wanna be able to play it, and I guess we have played it on your MAME station, but I wanna play it with a joystick. Like to play Mario with a joystick has got to be a different experience than using the game.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting, right? Yeah.
It can't feel as natural.
Well, you could probably try like the NES Advantage, right? If you want to try the NES.
Yeah, but the NES Advantage always to me felt very stiff.
Yeah.
Plus, like like if you remember the NES Advantage, like you couldn't hold it in place, like.
It's pretty unwieldy, right?
Yeah.
The unit system, like the Nintendo unit system, like those controllers. It's kind of like you remember how Donkey Kong's controller was?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
They always feel a little loose, right? I don't know if that's because of age, but it's just kind of wiggly and wobbly.
Yeah, it very much so.
It's frustrating to play a Donkey Kong unit nowadays because many of them are kind of loose. it adds to the difficulty that's already kind of set sort of high
when
you have a loose controller.
Yep.
But then again, you have a built-in excuse if you die. So
blame the controller.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because I noticed, like, if I play Donkey Kong like on an emulator, and you're playing it with like some new like controller with a D-pad, it's so much easier than playing it like in the arcade.
And then I go to the expo and I'm horrible at it, and I'm like, what's going on here?
I think that's why kids nowadays think that the games are so much easier, because that's what they play them on now. Emulators.
Probably. Yeah.
They don't
save states and all those things.
Please get
There's no continue. Come on.
Rewind. Cool. Is there anything else about versus Superman? It's a very nitpick. And I say that with all due respect. We were very big Nintendo people too, Martin and I. But
huge.
You had it 3. You forced it into the top 10. Brute forced it in. And like I said, I don't necessarily consider it arcade, but you kind of convinced me that it does have their roots there. It belongs. You should think of it as arcade.
I mean,
because it is a sequel to a timeless arcade game.
Yeah, and when you think of like your top just video games of all time, I mean, Super Mario Brothers is always up there. So
video games of all time?
Yeah, so
without question.
So I had to get it in there with the arcade games too.
Yeah. Fine, whatever.
Makes sense.
I'm not gonna hate you for that. I mean, I love that game too, but it's just a great game. Okay, so that takes us to number 9, Nick. What's next on the countdown?
What was number 9?
So exciting. We're in the top 10.
Yeah, number 9 is Q*bert.
Oh,
Q*bert.
I love Q*bert.
Now we're talking
frustrating game. Frustrating.
It is frustrating, but man, Q*bert is so cute. It's worth it. I when I think of Q*bert, I just think 80s, man. I think of the cartoon from the what was it? Supercade.
Saturday Supercade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Saturday Supercade.
There's that 50s style.
The 50s style.
He's wearing like the sweater, like the Letterman sweater.
Yes. And like Coily and his gang look like greasers. Like it's straight up out of Grease, but with Q*bert characters.
Yeah.
But that game is super, super colorful.
It's very colorful.
Yeah. It's a beautiful game, honestly. And
the artwork on the cabinet is just super beautiful. I
always love
with
that artwork.
The yellow.
Yeah, I get. Oh yeah, the yellow. Good point. It's like that yellow for Super Mario 3. Like you spot it from a mile.
Definitely.
What is it about yellow?
It's just unusual. I mean, it's unusual, and that's. I mean, because can you think of many that have used yellow?
I don't know.
It better be a special game. That's for one thing.
If you look at the box art of Super Mario 3 and like the side art for Q*bert, you cannot go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Great color.
And the little boxes that he jumps on are very colorful and pleasing to the eye. He's got tons of personality for a game that came out in 1983. He's kind of got the pseudo swearing. I like that he pops up here and there in like pop culture, right? Like especially recently, he was in Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh yeah.
He always seems to be on.
I felt so bad. Yeah. It's like, why did they make Q*bert like he gets
no love? He gets no love. That's the problem.
Well, his game got unplugged. Yeah. So Wreck-It Ralph hands him the cherry from the Pac-Man cherry, and poor Q*bert, he's just grateful to have his cherry.
Well, I wonder if it's because, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was never a sequel to Q*bert, right?
You're wrong.
Oh, there was? Really? Okay.
No, yeah. You really went out on a limb.
I had a theory. I don't know.
No, but yeah, I don't blame.
I don't remember
an arcade sequel.
Yes.
Really?
And I don't blame anybody for never hearing of this one.
I'm guessing it wasn't Yellow Side.
I was about to agree with you, Martin. I didn't think there was one.
I've never seen it in the wild, but yeah, it's called Q*bert's Cubes.
Okay.
Oh, it's not even like a Q*bert 2?
It's very different. It still has like the cubes, but they're not so much the pyramid like before, and they're kind of separated out. They're not like touching each other, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And as you jump from cube to cube, the entire cube will rotate depending on which way you jump off of it. So like, if you jump off of it that way, it'll rotate that way. If you jump that way, it rotates that way.
That sounds pretty ambitious.
And so each side of the cube, has a color, and so it's the same kind of color matching thing. And so you need to know what angle to come at to get it to flip the right way.
So it's almost like a puzzle in a way also.
Yeah. Now, was that something that came out like soon after Q*bert, or came out in 2000 or something like that?
Oh no, yeah, it's old.
Yeah,
it is old.
I'd have to look up, what year it was, but it's an old game.
That's something to look into.
Not recent.
Well, maybe post in the comments if you've seen that in the wild and let us know your thoughts about it. I've never heard of it before. So.
Yeah, or I can look up some video footage and like throw it over Nick talking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
If I can find some. I mean, with YouTube nowadays, I mean, somebody must have, some kind of video footage of it.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be a rare, pretty valuable machine, I would bet.
I imagine so.
I've never heard of it.
Like nobody else can see it.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
But let me find out.
Yeah, they're really
year
spaced out. I was not even picturing that in my mind.
That might explain why Q*bert's always like on the homeless side of the house.
His sequel bankrupted him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody liked my sequel.
Q*bert's Cubes. Maybe this.
Now, was there a board game of Q*bert? Am I remembering that correctly? Like they have those.
It came out in '83 also.
Same year.
It's called Q*bert.
If Q*bert was '83, this one's '83.
I think Q*bert came out in '83.
I've never seen that.
But wow, they were like, "Whoa, we got to get a sequel out fast."
It looks it looks to just have used the Q*bert cabinet. It would just and be like an upgrade.
Oh, I see.
But
there couldn't have been a lot of there wasn't a lot of demand for that. I don't think.
No. Which
is funny because that was a really popular. I mean, that's in like a lot of people's top 10.
Yeah.
Q*bert.
Yeah, but nobody's ever heard of Q*bert's Cubes. I totally do not blame you all for not hearing it.
Plead guilty. Never heard of it.
I never heard of it until MAME. That's where I found out about it.
I'd rather play that than watch Q*bert, and Josh Gad have children together like in this movie.
But no, you were asking if there was a board game?
Yeah,
there was.
They made a board game for every one of those early 80s classics, didn't they? Because in your museum, I noticed you had like Zaxxon, Legend of Zelda's not.
I don't have the Q*bert board game, but yeah.
I didn't notice it. Yeah, that's why I was wondering if they made it.
Yeah.
But they did make the Coleco version, didn't they? Was there a Coleco version of that miniature?
Oh yeah. And I do have that, but it wasn't Coleco because it wasn't like the same like shape as the Coleco ones.
There were knockoff versions.
Yeah, it was kind of. I don't remember who put it out, but it looked different.
Okay.
I'll take a picture of mine.
Gotcha. Maybe you could put that up on the Facebook page. The BitGeeks Facebook. Check it out.
Yeah. In my opinion, the Coleco ones look better. I don't really
love the way the Coleco ones
I don't
look.
like the shape of the Q*bert one, but it's a good game though.
Coleco one's right here. If I could grab it for you guys.
And in fact, there's a.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So these. I mean, if you were a kid in the '80s, you had one of these for sure.
Yeah.
In your home.
I've actually got this one, but the housing is missing on mine.
Yeah, I love the style of the Coleco ones.
Yeah.
The Q*bert one doesn't have like the same kind of like housed in area like for the screen.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like the screen's laid back and it's kind of like a little shelter
kind of tilted
for it.
back.
Yeah, it doesn't have that.
Speaking of the Q*bert mini arcade, I just recently bought the Q*bert mini arcade from Walmart.
Well, and that's what I was going to talk about.
It's really nice
because the Walmart one is exclusive.
And I bought Rampage.
There's another. Oh yeah.
It was on my list. I had to buy it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I would have bought Joust, but they were out of stock. So, hey, I got to be right, guys. Joust and Rampage. Okay?
No matter how bad they are.
But that Walmart one is exclusive. There's another one out there that looks very, very similar to it, but it's the old... It's like that Coleco style like LCD game though.
They sell them at Toys R Us.
They have those everywhere else.
See, these are
as good as
Toys R Us, whatever.
See, these are Series 2.
But I like the way that cabinet looks in the Toys R Us version. I think that cabinet looks looks cooler than the one from Walmart. The ones from Walmart are kind of flat. And,
they're not that great. I mean,
the side of the art looks cool, but
they're similar but slightly different.
Yeah.
Speaking of the graphics, the mini arcade Pac-Man version, like the newer version of it, they kind of cheaped out because it still looks like LCD graphics.
It kind of acts like it moves like a space at a time rather than like kind of a fluid motion.
And it's not as good as like the Space Invaders or the Frogger game. Like those look really good.
And then even the what's the mini keychain arcade that just
like
came
the ones
out.
from Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Oh, like we had on the first episode?
Those are actually better than the larger size.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, I did also notice there's an Asteroids version for the mini arcade at Walmart.
I haven't played it, but
It's really hard to play. Like, the screen blinks a lot, and it's just
I imagine
not
that
well
one
done.
would be tricky to do in the style of those little arcades.
Yeah.
Due to those vector style graphics or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good.
It's disappointing.
But
I had my doubts. I had reservations on that one. It looks cool, but
yeah.
Now, have you guys seen that Kickstarter Centipede game that's out there?
Oh, yeah.
That looks fantastic.
Please make other arcade versions of those.
Yes.
Oh man, the detail.
It's a beautiful thing. I'll have to throw up some images of that too.
Yeah.
And if you were in on it at a certain day, like you got it at a really discounted price, like $70 or $80.
Oh wow, that's
whereas
a steal.
normally it's like $200.
Oh wow.
But I assume if it's very successful, they'll start because that's their mission is to put out as many of those old arcade games.
Well,
as possible.
I'm seeing a trend now where people are starting to put these things out and get more commercial about them. So.
Yeah. And are they like 6 inches tall? They're pretty tall. I can't remember if they're 6 inches or 10 inches tall.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can just envision like on my shelf having like them because you know how we have the little minis from the Cracker Barrel lined up, and for a few seconds you can have like kind of an attract mode on all of them.
Yeah,
and it looks so cool, but the battery.
If you squint, it's like you're in the arcades, right?
From far away, it looks just like an arcade. Now those I bet have like the larger battery and stuff. Like you probably could just leave those running,
right?
Yeah,
and it would just look glorious.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
I don't know why they started with Centipede. I know they got Atari's license and everything.
It's pretty popular. I mean, Centipede,
I know.
Which actually, it's not on any of our lists.
No.
Which is kind of shame on us. Because
it's a fun game.
I love Centipede.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I love the artwork on that, on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It looks great. But man, I almost pulled the trigger on that thing. It's just like one of those games where it's like...
Oh, you should have.
I'm thinking it was closer to $100
Do it.
I know, yeah, whatever. I can't do that. I got a family to answer to. Anyways, this isn't about Centipede.
Put your PayPal email below, and we need donations for...
If it had been Qbert, I would have done it. I would have slept outside of my car with the glow of Qbert keeping me warm.
Well, maybe we need to start a Kickstarter for Qbert.
I don't know how to make those things. I can kickstart the idea of the Kickstarter for them.
All right, so back to Qbert.
Awesome game. I love it. It's one of those games. It's like really simple to play, but gets super hard really fast.
Well, but did you know though that every time you hop on one of those discs and Coily jumps off the edge of the screen and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you know that the cabinet actually had a mechanism inside that it would hit the side of the cabinet like when Coily jumped off to mimic that sound? And it's
I've heard of that.
No.
And it makes a loud knock.
Inside the cabinet?
Inside the cabinet, yeah. And I never really knew
that's some Chuck E. Cheese level stuff right there, man.
Yeah.
The Qbert at Zanzibar, that mechanism works. And if you play Qbert at Zanzibar, Coily will jump off, and it'll.
Did it freak you out?
Yeah, it kind of. You're like, what the? When at first I'm like, what happened?
No, I remember.
Yeah, it really surprised me when I heard it.
Now we've mentioned
it was loud. It's really loud.
We've mentioned in the past some of these games where we just kind of missed that generation of arcades, and Qbert I think kind of fits into that a little bit.
Yeah,
I have.
It's kind of on the tail end of that.
Yeah, I have fonder memories of wanting it for Atari 2600 and playing it a lot on that.
Yeah.
But only because I'd seen, I saw the cartoon and I had seen the arcade. But, I guess because we were on the tail end of that phenomenon, we probably, if we did see it, that mechanism just didn't function.
Yeah.
Yeah. My understanding is that it broke a lot.
Yeah.
And so, it broke and it never got fixed.
Sure.
And,
Who makes Qbert? They're not your typical.
It's I don't know how to pronounce it. Gottlieb or
I think it's Gottlieb.
Gottlieb.
Yeah.
I wonder whatever happened to them. I guess Qbert 2 failed. Maybe. It's not a company that I really recognize.
Yeah, I don't know them for any other game. Qbert is the only game that I've heard that name for.
They just hit lightning in a bottle with Qbert, I guess.
Yeah. I think they did some other random games. Interesting fact, I worked with a guy that was head of their marketing for a while, and he was there when they developed Qbert.
Oh yeah.
And he remembered telling me the story about the the cuss word text and things like that. Yeah. And when they first saw like the isometric view that the developer made, those kind of things. So
does he have any of that old promotional like stuff? Like
I've kind of lost contact with them, but you know, it's one of those things that I might have to dig them up.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. I would love to see some of the old. Just some old paperwork or something. You know, like
definitely.
Make a manual for the arcade or something. I don't know.
That would be neat.
So just send me that paint. What type of paint? Yellow color was that? You know, so I can paint my like room in it.
You know how kids will like in their mind like think that they're like really really good at some game or whatever when really they're probably not really that great.
They're just the best in their house.
Qbert was like Qbert was that for me. Like in my mind, I thought like I was just like the best Qbert player ever.
Is that right?
Yeah,
best on the street.
Yeah, like because I remember like playing it at Chuck E. Cheese, thinking like I'm really good at this game. You know, I probably would get to like the second board or something. I don't know.
Well,
lots of kids are like
that's
that.
Further than I got because I remember the roller rink, my local roller rink. It was like that thing ate my quarters so fast, and that's maybe why I didn't like it because it was just a quarter machine, right? It's just like it took a while to figure out the controls first, right?
Yeah, right.
And then to see what was going on in the arcade, was that just like your controller didn't really match what it was made for?
Oh no, yeah, because we're doing it
impossible.
It's got to be diagonal.
It's got to be. I mean, because my controller will do 8 directions, but the problem is it doesn't know that down and left is down left. It's actually a 4-way joystick. Turned,
okay.
Interesting. So it's you kind of have to envision in your mind what it's going to be like and kind of shift yourself over to be.
Or
like
they at least
angles.
have to play it on like a console where they've programmed it to like where down means down right and that kind of thing.
I remember playing it like on the NES version that I would like hold my controller kind of
that's smart.
And nice. Play it that way, and then it's no problem at all.
Yeah. Right.
But you have to adjust.
Yeah, you get going really fast, like almost like you're one step ahead with like you would register the movements and like Qbert's catching up to what button press you just did. I remember like feeling that way, like it was a frame or two behind whatever input you registered to it.
Yeah. Wow.
But whenever you get to the point where you would have to do like multiple colors. Oh man,
yeah.
That's when you start cursing the game, especially when that little dude comes down and changes your colors, like on the progress you've made already.
That's pain.
When I was talking about like playing as a kid and thinking like I was so great, I would get to where it was like ugh and wrong way, jumping on the sides of the cubes, and that was like the point where it's like this is how far I've gotten and this is amazing.
Yeah,
like, I'm so good.
You're right. That was the bar.
And I'm pretty sure that's the second board.
How many boards are in Qbert, by the way? Does it repeat? Or
I have no idea.
It probably does repeat like a Pac-Man or
does
something.
It ever end?
Probably not. Like that's just how arcades did back in the day.
Well, because it does. The arcade version does actually have like levels where it'll have like a little introduction, like this is level 1, and then there's like 4 boards, and this is level 2, and there's 4 boards, and because I think I've gotten as far as like level 4, but just for that fact alone that there's graphics for showing what level you're on, it's gotta stop at some point.
But it probably just starts over again.
Probably.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're so accustomed to reaching an end, and then you get credits, and then that's just it.
Because which game was it? Crystal Castles was like the first game to actually have an ending.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about that too.
That's an interesting fact.
I don't know I don't remember if Qbert is before or after Crystal Castles.
I don't either.
So
around the same time.
Yeah.
But that was a classic game, very unique.
That's a fun game too, and they've had that at the expo.
I've seen it.
Arcade Expo.
I like the way it responds.
Oh
yeah,
little,
like ball or whatever.
The trackball.
It responds really well.
Oh yeah.
So that's a game that I would have liked to have played if I'd seen it, but I only seen it in pictures and stuff. Never
that should come after Centipede. On the Kickstarter.
Well, they'd already have one. Yeah. The thing. That's another thing too about the Kickstarter. As I was thinking in my head, it would be great if like they did any other game that didn't have a trackball, because then you could hack it maybe and put other ROMs on it at least.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, it's a setup very specific for Centipede.
Well, do Crystal Castles.
Yeah, I guess. There were other like Marble Madness, I guess.
Right.
That was a fun game.
Yeah. Give Me a Break. That's a pool game.
Oh my god. Golden Tee. Why not?
Yeah. See?
Okay. All right. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for Keyword.
Yeah.
What's next on the list?
All right. So
number 8.
Next on the list. Oh, you'll like this one. All right. So
Could it be
number 8? Dragon's Lair.
Oh yeah.
Dragon's Lair. So how many of us said Dragon's Lair?
I know you did, Nick.
So you had it number 4.
Number 4.
It wasn't on my list.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's okay.
You
guys didn't have Rampage.
I had it number 12.
Dragon's Lair is not much of a game. It really isn't.
No, it's really a video.
If I'm honest, it's it's that like quick. What do they call them? Click time event type games that people hate nowadays.
Yeah.
For PlayStation. And,
QuickTime.
Yeah.
QuickTime. Yeah. People hate those style of games, but for what it was, it came out in 1983 as well.
Yeah.
It just was unbelievable that it was in an arcade
But
cabinet.
when everything else were like these squares and pixels and whatever, Dragon's Lair was like a cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, it was revolutionary. I mean, it was state of the art.
Professional. I mean, like Don Bluth. Like people knew who Don Bluth was, and it was. I mean, I was never into like Dungeons and Dragons necessarily, but I liked fantasy.
Yeah.
And who didn't want to like rescue the princess? Like it was like the OG Mario, like rescuing the princess.
Right.
But there was a dragon that was Koopa. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That game for me is just. My brother is similar to yours. Maybe it's something about older brothers and building stuff up in your head makes something seem more enticing. But I know I'm not the only one. That Dragon's Lair is a game that is culturally, it's a phenomenon, dude.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing that in like TV shows and movies, and it was like in game shows, and like there was that Starcade or whatever, where like the kids would compete.
Yeah, that was always the best episode. Is if or Dragon's Lair is on Starcade.
Hey, good luck with that one, kids. Right.
Right.
and my brother was like one of the few people that like I ever talked to that routinely could beat it, in the arcades.
Wow.
And I just
I'm gonna have to meet this guy because I'm impressed.
Well, unfortunately, he's passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
That's okay. But yeah, he would always tell me about this game, and then I would always try and impress him. Like I was always looking for that home port, coming out, and Sega CD was like the closest you ever got. Mm-hmm. But I only saw Dragon's Lair once ever anywhere, and it was like in a gas station of all places.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I used to play it at Chuck E. Cheese.
Huh?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I just didn't notice it there. But he would tell me, he would regale me with stories about how like people would just gather around because it was an expensive game.
He would regale me.
He would regale us.
Gather around,
yes,
by the campfire.
Yeah, well, it was it was like watching Michael Jordan play basketball. Like apparently, like my brother, like they would know he would come and he would put in his 50 cents and beat the game because he had all the things memorized, which is amazing because. As we've beaten that drum again and again and again, there was no internet. You didn't have places you could go and just... I mean, it's hard enough to beat now, and we have the internet.
Yeah, to look up the codes and the process to it.
I just can't even imagine just in that day and age realizing what needed to be done and memorizing those patterns.
Yeah, you didn't even know how long the game went on for, I guess.
Yeah.
Really.
I couldn't even imagine.
Wow.
But, he would always tell me these stories too about how the game was kind of rare. Not every place had it because it was an expensive game, but it also broke down a lot
because it was a Laserdisc.
It was Laserdisc, so it was out of order quite a bit.
I mean, that was also pretty revolutionary at the time.
For sure. Yeah, and there were other games in that they made in that Laserdisc style that was popular, I guess, but I never cared about like Space Ace, for example. Mad Dog McCree. Was that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that was Laserdisc.
I don't think I ever saw a Space Ace out in the wild.
Yeah. I remember seeing a Space Ace and a Dragon's Lair at the E-Town Mall. Oh, they had both those,
I know like Dragon's Lair 2 was at the River Falls Mall.
Mm.
Which I watched my brother try and beat.
And a Mad Dog McCree.
I've seen Mad Dog McCree. I think I saw it at Aladdin's Castle actually once too.
Oh yeah,
I believe so. That. Yeah, off to the side, nobody ever paid attention to it.
I mean, and
it would.
I don't know.
Granted, I was quite a bit younger than your brother.
Yeah.
Because like, I never even, when I was a kid, never once got the concept of like what exactly I was supposed to be doing.
Right. Well, we're the same age. My brother was like 12 years older than me.
Yeah, so I basically was just watching myself die, and you know, and since it was set to where like it didn't force you to beat the room that you were in, and so then it would randomly take you somewhere else.
Yeah,
and so I would see a lot of different rooms because, and I think they were maybe set up to where you know the ones like you had 5 lives that you know it gave you a lot of lives because you died all the time.
Yeah.
So I would see quite a bit of the animation and loved it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever like once actually like pressed something when I was supposed to.
Sometimes you would get it because it would give you like those obvious cues, like a beep or a flash.
Yeah. But it's like that. It's like, you know, if you're not paying attention, you're really going to miss it, right?
It for sure felt lucky, but that's all it took was like a few times, you know, and you feel like accomplished. But I mean, we've seen Dragon's Lair at the expos and stuff, and we always get a little excited because like we kind of get an idea of what games are going to be there, and you'll say like, "Oh, Dragon's Lair is going to be there." We got to like prepare.
Yeah,
you know?
Because I have since beat the game. Because at one time I did have it memorized when I finally figured out how it worked. You know?
I've never beaten it in the arcades, but I've beaten it many times.
But
like the home.
The day will come that we'll beat Dragon's Lair. And everyone will gather around.
So that'll be. I'll just have a tear in my eye, like tear in the eye.
So
my brother will be looking down on me.
Shooting star.
Yeah, probably.
So is that the game that you're gonna try and beat at the expo in 2018?
Yeah, if it's there.
Is that your goal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna do a let's play on it too. Probably.
Yeah, and they'll usually release like the lineup of games, and so if you know if we see Dragon's Lair on that lineup, start practicing and be ready.
That's what I was saying. Like we kind of get an idea what the list is going to be.
Yeah.
And a handful of times you have pre-warned me, and you know I'll get kind of excited, and you know like. And I'll write some stuff down, but you know we get to the expo and we play it, and if you get there early enough, like nobody's waiting to play it, we'll get kind of far into it. We'll beat some stuff.
If you get there at like when they first open, like that Friday, you got like the whole floor to yourself.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like a lot of people, you know, don't come that early. A lot of them will like come like on Saturday morning or something, but.
And by noon, it's packed. I mean, it gets so busy there, right?
That game is really unforgiving. Like we shot video footage also of us all trying out Dragon's Lair, and I was sucking hard at it. Like I couldn't hardly do anything, you know. So I gotta practice up, you know, whether it be an emulator or whatnot. You know,
Ron's a little rusty.
Oh, really rusty. In fact, a lot of the footage that we shot, and like I'm showing it, and I'm piecing together, or I'm thinking about putting it together in my mind, and I'm like, man, people are gonna think I suck at arcades because I am not doing good in any of these at all. Like, and if it's a fighting game, Nick's kicking all of our buttons practically. But yeah, Dragon's Lair. That's like my game. Like I feel like that's the game. Like how many times have I said Dragon's Lair on the BitGeek podcast? 24 episodes in. I mean,
wow.
You know, I picture like those like keyword hot like maps or whatever you see online and stuff like that. When Dragon's Lair would be like right in the middle, huge, and then there'd be other stuff like Ninja Turtles, Transformers around it. Yeah. But I love Dragon's Lair, if nothing else, just for what it means to me, like with my brother, and I just loved it anyway. I mean, they made a cartoon out of it.
Yeah, I love that cartoon.
Yeah, that was a good cartoon.
Darren's a cool character, and Daphne's like, whoa, you know, like. She was animated by, Playboy. Like, she was drawn by Playboy artists.
She didn't look that way in the cartoon, but,
No, she had that thing, like,
PG.
They toned her down a little bit.
They toned her down a little bit. But I love in the arcade, too, because they got that attract mode, and she's like...
To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
Oh my God. My magic sword was like... Anyways, just kidding. It's a cartoon. What am I saying?
It's getting a little uncomfortable over here.
Generating a little bit of heat over here.
Yeah, whoa.
Sorry. I'm kidding.
Down, boy.
Back then, yeah, but not now.
Sure.
But, Dragon's Lair, man, I love that game. Now, that's a game that I would love to
Back here, right?
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah, it's right. Well, you can't see it.
You can't see it, but yeah.
I've got it in my little, wall of artwork from Rusty Shackles.
She's a little bit more revealing in his. You might have to pull that down real quick.
Yeah. All right, I will pull it down. Here it is. So there's Rusty's artwork.
Awesome artwork.
Yeah, you know what? I feature all his artwork in the background, and I've even told him that like I use it for my podcast or whatever, but I've never actually shouted him out. Jay King, that dude's a super talented guy. I'll have to throw a link to what is it, Tabletop Fetus or whatever is the site that he has all of his artwork
I think that's the name of it. Yeah, I've got a lot of his stuff too.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy, and he shows up at a lot of like expos in the areas, the region that we live in.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, go check him out. Like he sells his artwork really reasonably.
Oh, very.
So if you have like a little like man cave area and you want to decorate your stuff with this awesome like nostalgic video game art, check him out.
Cannot go wrong.
He'll treat you right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I guess that's the end for Dragon's Lair, right?
Yeah, that's Dragon's Lair.
All right, so moving on.
All right, number 7, Frogger.
Oh man, Frogger.
Nice. Frogger.
Was it
Great game.
high on my list? I don't think it was on my list. I believe.
So that was 1981.
1981.
Wow.
Very memorable.
Okay, so all 3 of us picked Frogger.
Okay.
Okay, good. So
we're all in agreement.
Yeah, at least we agree on something.
Finally,
right?
something we all agree on.
yeah, so it was you ranked it 17th, Ron.
Okay.
I ranked it 8th,
Okay.
and Martin ranked it 10th.
Okay. So all over the lists, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could easily have it in the top 10. I mean, well, not easily, but I do love that game. It's a really fun game. You had the board game version of it. I remember you were showing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I used to have the board game version. Well, no, I do because I found it at a flea market that I rebought it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I remember the story was like all that I had left was just like the one little frog piece, and I don't know what has happened to everything else. But,
I remember that Atari cartridge so well.
Yeah.
Like the art on the Atari
really
cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a game that was very playable on the 2600. Like, they weren't all super playable, but that one was. Seen it in arcades all over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even after many years after it originally came out in '81, I still saw it in a lot of places. It hung on for a while.
Long time.
Not quite like a Pac-Man or whatever, but it definitely hung on for quite a while.
It had like that wood grain like finish on the front. Yeah. Like most of the other arcades
just
are
missed
like
the 70s.
Black. Yeah.
That just reminds me of the 2600 when we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wood grain finish, baby.
Yeah.
Just like a station wagon from the 70s. Everybody's basement was wood paneled, wood grain, whatever. But that game was just a really tight feeling game.
Oh yeah.
Very responsive.
And forgiving. I mean, like if a car hit like a pixel of your foot, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very precise game.
I love too how like the game is like in layers. Like you cross in the street, and that's a game in itself.
Yeah.
And then you're moving on to like a swamp, like the river or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, like you're not quite out of the woods yet. You get, if you make it past the highway and you make it past like the disappearing turtles that you can hop on or like whatever's crawling on a log, then you got to line up that perfect, space in the end. You got those little cutout areas. Like you got to be perfect on those. Yeah. There's no forgiveness on those either. Right. Yeah. So.
And then the next levels after that, they've got the crocodile in and out of those spaces. Too.
Oh yeah, they would appear and disappear.
Yeah, and there was like that middle area that kind of separated the road and the river. Mm-hmm. But later on, then there's a snake
stuff in there. Yeah.
So in that middle area, so you can't just sit tight there.
You could not sit tight. The whole point of that game was to keep you moving.
And even dodging all this stuff, there's a timer going, so you got to do it quick.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's a timer. So it's not like you could like backtrack too much. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you'd have to backtrack.
You couldn't just wait around for a good opportunity because you just run out of time.
But even if you tried, in most cases, like everywhere on the screen is something that's designed to make you move.
Oh yeah.
So it's really genius on the the developer's part to keep you moving fast. Mm-hmm. And but you had to be kind of patient. You couldn't just go flying through. And that's the thing too, is you're so tempted to fly through. A lot of times I would die just because I'd be impatient. You know what I mean? Like one of those kinds of games where like you just, it's not hard to play, but it can get, if you die because it's unforgiving, you start to get frustrated, and that's when you start speeding up. So, I mean, it's just another one of those like hallmarks of a good game that, you know, you can keep dying and coming back for more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I felt like I got my money's worth with that quarter, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that hard to clear the first stage. And, you know, if you got a couple boards in, you felt kind of accomplished. Whereas in, like, games like, you know, Rampage or Dragon's Lair, where really you didn't get your money's worth at all. Mm-hmm. Right. You're just, I mean, you did because it was fun, but other games would reward you. Like, I guess that's another thing, too, is, like, arcade games back in the day didn't have an ending or a story. It was just repeat, repeat, repeat. So, you know, you could, I guess they didn't feel like they had to make it so gimmicky where you had to die to keep you playing. You know, they knew that you would keep playing because you were trying to beat your high score.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, is it Crystal Castles that was the first one to have an ending?
Well, I don't know. That'd be an excellent factoid.
I want to say it's Crystal Castles.
So, like, you beat the game, it's over, like that kind of
thing?
It
actually had an ending, yeah. Wow. And, you know, I don't know, you know, ones that follow, but obviously ones like Final Fight, like those side-scrolling fighters.
Oh, yeah.
They did.
Yeah, for sure. There was a point to playing the game. There was a story. Not all games had a story, you know. There was just... I mean, they might give you a story where, like, the princess is captured or something.
When it was Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and Frogger, I mean, it just kept getting harder and harder.
On and on and on until the game bugged out. If it did have an ending, it's because it bugged out.
Right.
Famously, like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's another game, like, I don't remember there being, like, a Frogger champion either. I'm sure there were.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there were.
It doesn't seem like it was, like, one of those, like, really competitive games. It's a very lighthearted game, I feel like. Mm-hmm. But everybody likes Frogger. Mm-hmm. And even got a second life in some of the, like, PlayStation era type stuff. Like, they came up with, like, 3D rendered Frogger games. Mm-hmm. And those were fun, too.
I liked it. That was good.
Yeah, they were just fine. And it didn't stray too far from the concept. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, Frogger is an excellent game. We can all agree that Frogger belongs in the top 20. And in this case, since it got those bonus points for all of us having it, scooted it up in the top 10.
Sure.
But hey, it deserves it if we all think it's in the top 20. Nick, what's next?
All right, number 6. All right, so here's, I think, like the first one where we each actually, and actually this one we each actually did pick different games, but we combined them.
Yeah.
So,
and that made total sense.
We encompassed, for number 6, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, and Mortal Kombat 3, which...
Martin, which one did you pick?
You had said Mortal Kombat.
I picked the first one.
So you picked Mortal Kombat. You ranked at 5th place. I picked Mortal Kombat 2, which, I mean, I love Mortal Kombat, but it really peaked for me at 2. 2 really got me interested in it.
Yeah.
Even though, I did play 1, and I thought it was great and everything, but then 2 came out and, like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
But I put that at 11.
And honestly, and I had Mortal Kombat 3 is the one that I... Now, I initially had Mortal Kombat due to its groundbreaking, game. It wasn't the first game that featured digitized graphics. There were other games. Like, I remember the game Pit Fighter was one of those games. Fighter. It was fun, but Mortal Kombat took it, like, to the next level. It was, it didn't feel gimmicky. Like, the fatalities were basically a gimmick. But it felt like a complete game. Like, it was, and it was like, because the fighting games were popular at the time. They took a totally different they took a burgeoning, like, technology, and they took that and they were able to make it into a complete game. Mm-hmm. And they were able to ride this new technology on top of the controversialness of the game, being with, like, bloody and fatalities, which, got parents all hot and bothered, and politicians, so naturally, like, teenagers and kids are going to flock to it even harder.
And I don't even think that was even a big deal until the home versions were coming out.
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
But, and I guess that's because, like, older kids hung out in arcades. Once you start talking about home consoles, parents will just pick up any game for their kid. I experienced that myself. I remember when they just announced that ratings board. And I don't know if it was Mortal Kombat, but it was a game that was mature rated. And like the kid came in with his pre-order, and the mom, well, I wouldn't give it to him because he clearly wasn't 18. So I was like, I'm sorry, you gotta have to have a parent pick this up. So he went out, and his mom was like waiting outside, and I'm sure she was having a long day, and she got all mad. Came in, started like cussing me out, telling me well, I already bought the game and blah blah blah. I'm just like, do you even know what your kid's playing? I mean, I'm with you, kid. It's a fun game, and you have to knock yourself out. I don't even care, but like the parent getting mad at me was like, wow, that blew me away. But it was graphic, severe, dismemberments, and all kinds. You name it. I mean,
well, like especially like in 2, 2 like Kung Lao, like slice them in half. He was about to.
Yeah, for sure. But for me, Mortal Kombat 3, I like that mechanic of the run button. It sped it up. That was the thing for me. Like, I liked Mortal Kombat, but it felt too slow for me.
Yeah.
When they added that run button, it sped it up so much. For me, it rivaled Street Fighter in my mind. For me personally, it fun. So it was a bit gimmicky, but playable and fun. But it wasn't Street Fighter to me. Like, it was always the king. Like, all these other games are just a fun side distraction.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with this game. It looks cool, and they're surely doing something unique here. But yeah, that run button at Mortal Kombat 3. But I initially said Mortal Kombat just because I was trying to get it due. Like,
yeah, but then when we were talking about combining the two,
I went ahead and changed it.
You were like, well, if you're going to combine them, I want to say Mortal Kombat 3 for mine then.
Yeah. And Mortal Kombat 2 is like one of the great surprises ever.
Yeah.
In a time when like you had magazines and stuff like giving you previews.
Yeah, it just popped out of
nowhere.
It
just came up out of nowhere. It was a no-brainer that it would come out, but there was no like warning or preview of any kind.
Like, because I remember reading about development of Mortal Kombat 3 before it came out.
Yeah,
2 just popped up and it's out.
Was Mortal Kombat 2 the one that introduced babalities and friendships and all that stuff? So silly.
It's so cool because Mortal Kombat 2, it's like almost like 4 times the original game, right? There's so many more characters, fatalities, babalities, and things. I almost chose it, but I actually own Mortal Kombat, the arcade machine, so it's got a special place in my heart.
For sure.
Just the original game when it came out, and just seeing that in the arcades, you're like, holy crap, what is this?
Yeah, and that motion capture,
so impressive.
That motion capture really took off too after Mortal Kombat. I remember games like Primal Rage would come out.
Oh yeah, and NBA Jam too.
Same style, yeah. Like what we said in the last episode when we were doing the 10 through 11, they were the same, midway, right?
Oh yeah,
so same team, and so they really pushed that technology to the limit. Nobody did it as good as they did. So they clearly had whatever it was, expensive equipment.
Yeah, like
to make that happen.
Primal Rage was popular at the time because, number one, it was on a big screen.
Yeah, it was on a big screen.
Not all arcade games at the time were on big screens. Only select few. So that was cool. It's on a big screen.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs.
Big dinosaurs and monsters.
People loved it.
The farting ape.
But yeah.
Chaos.
Yeah, the one gorilla pukes, the other one farts. So it was edgy and people loved it, but then, when you get done with all that fluff, it's really not very good.
Well, remember, too, that game, because a lot of people, well, not a lot, some companies try to capitalize just on the violence alone. There was that game Time Killers that got a lot of people upset, because it was like the violence just for the sake of violence. Like, they didn't put all that effort and time into balancing the game, making it a fun fighting game.
Right.
It was just violence.
Yeah.
Button pressing violence.
Like Way of the Warrior on the 3DO.
Ooh, boy.
I mean, that...
Yeah, just because it was motion cap didn't mean it was good.
Yeah. But it was awful.
Yeah.
Everybody was trying to cash in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game, the industry changed a lot because of that game.
Oh
It's the reason why we have the ratings board, I really think. Yep. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Well, they games like Night Trap were also, and it was motion capture, and I guess it was just because it was for the first time like realistic people.
I think so.
They
realistic
weren't like
violence.
Yeah, realistic violence on realistic people. So that's really, I mean, what when you get down to it in movies, what constitutes like an R rating. You know, is there like murder? Is there nudity? Is whatever, you know. Once you start getting into blood and things, then instantly it kicks up, you know, the sensitivity as far as censorship goes. Yeah. But yeah, Mortal Kombat, all of the games are pretty good. And they're still around. They're still, you know, fatalitying it up. Not in arcades, but...
Yeah. Maybe all until... Then there was 4, and then however many
they had their it wasn't all roses for Mortal Kombat.
They weren't that great, but all the 2D ones were great.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They had that awkward foray into 3D,
and then when 9 came out and they rebooted, it started getting good again.
Yeah. So that's cool. Now maybe they'll start rebooting NBA Jam type games. That'd be fun. All right, so that's what was our number? Is that 6?
That was 6. So,
okay, so we're to the top 5.
So number 5, the top 5.
Here we go.
Here's another one that we combined. The Ninja Turtle arcade games. So the first one, and then also Turtles in Time.
So yeah, you actually said Turtles in Time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Martin ranked Turtles in Time as 11th place on his list. I had the first Turtle arcade game number 6 on my list, and you had the first Turtle arcade game number 3 on your list.
Number 3 on my list. Yeah. So I was huge into the Ninja Turtles at the time.
Oh, who wasn't? I mean, the cartoons and the comics. I mean, awesome.
I'll never forget when we were all like at the mall on a field trip. It was out. And there was plenty of us that want to play it, so all 4 of us.
Yeah, so we played through it and beat the game, and the one guy kept stealing your quarters.
Josh Roberts
ran out.
I want my money back. You owe me about $2.50, I figure.
Plus interest and inflation, right?
True that. You got $25. Maybe?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. That one came out in '89, I guess.
Yeah, so...
So the show was a couple of years old by then.
So the first game was 89, and then the second game was 91.
Okay. So let's talk about the differences between the 2 games, because to me, the first one, even though it came out first, I think it actually looks cooler than the second.
I love the first one, but the second one, I think the sprites are more colorful, maybe even a little bit bigger, more detailed. But I feel like you, though, that for whatever reason, even though there's like these clear advantages to the second one, I like the first one. I don't know why. I can't tell you.
I honestly, well, because I'll tell you one thing too. Like, I like the characters in the first one way better. You know, you got Bebop and Rocksteady and Krang and Baxter and all the classics. Whereas in the second one, in Turtles in Time, they kind of...
Well, and like Krang alone, I don't like what they did to him in the second game. Like, he's got like those
flying around in that backpack.
Wings, and I'm like, where did that come from?
That felt like a step back.
Yeah.
You know? But the Turtles in Time was really fun. It was a really fun game. It for sure had more colorful sprites. No doubt about it. Yeah. I don't know if they were bigger or not, but they were for sure more colorful.
Some of the bosses, you don't even know who they are. There's like that slime monster guy that was in the where you go back in time to like the dinosaurs.
Yep.
And it's like, well, it's just Mudman.
Right. It's one of the mud monsters from Dragon's Lair.
That's right.
But I like that you could flip the enemies towards you on the screen.
Yeah.
It took advantage of that like Super Nintendo style graphics. Like, that to me is one of the more impressive Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a very good Super Nintendo game.
It's an awesome Super Nintendo game. So, you know, I like it quite a bit, but I would not put Turtles in Time in my top 30 even, I don't think.
In fact, Turtles in Time, did it even have Bebop and Rocksteady at all?
I don't think so.
Now, the Super Nintendo did, because they're dressed up as pirates, but in the arcade version, it was Toka and Razor.
Mm-hmm.
They were cash cashing in on the
who I was already
movie's
hating on because in the movie they weren't Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah, so they didn't even have Bebop and Rocksteady. And,
it's weird because they had, by then, in 91, they were like, 3, 4, 5 seasons into the show. They should have been able to just use the popular characters.
The first board was Baxter as a fly. The second board was...
I liked that it had Metalhead, because I thought he was cool.
The third is that sewer, and there's not really a boss there. It's all those little pizza alien guys.
Yeah.
Then you're back in time.
But that was in the show.
The Mudman.
Mudman wasn't in the show, I don't think.
Then...
Should have been.
Yeah, right. I guess.
Then it's the pirate board, which is Token Razor. Then you go to the Wild West.
Oh yeah, it was on the train.
And so it's Leatherhead, which Leatherhead.
The set pieces, if you will, of Turtles in Time were pretty impressive.
Then you go to the future, and I guess that one's Krang. I guess because you fight Krang a couple times.
Yeah, you fight him on the first stage. Is that when you fight him in New York?
It's just it's like a skateboardy kind of future, like where you're flying on.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And then you're like.
Oh, and I always hated those stages.
Then you're in like a space
I
station.
did not like that stage, or like the stage in the first one that had the like helicopter things flying around everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Talk about taking your money.
Yeah.
And so like you say though, it didn't really have like the characters, why not?
I don't know. You had more seasons of those characters. You'd have more to pick from. And like I said, they did have Metalhead. They had Leatherhead, I guess, right?
Metalhead was cool. Leatherhead was like, he's okay.
Whatever.
And Baxter as a fly was cool.
It would have been neat if they could have got like Usagi Yojimbo in there somewhere.
Yeah.
that would have been neat.
It was like a hidden character. And you
Oh yeah, April Fool's Day joke. EGM gets us again. But so the first one I think just like resonates with me so much because it was so faithful to like the cartoon and the comic. Well, the cartoon, not really the comic, but the bosses were fun, memorable. The stages are all memorable. You got April driving off a bridge. Turtles getting kissed on the nose. I mean, it had everything.
Yeah.
And again, it was just like one of those like 4-player Konami classic beat 'em up games, and it hung around forever and ever and ever.
And we're talking about the characters, and even though like the rock guys, General Trag and Granitor, even though they don't really appear in the cartoon all that terribly much, they're really cool though.
Oh yeah,
I like them.
Yeah, I think I guess they appeared in the that 5-part miniseries episode or whatever.
Yeah, they're in that, but they weren't in it much.
But yeah, the toys were neat, and I remember like having the toys and playing with them. And I would like recreate that arcade a lot with the toys.
Yeah.
Pretend I was playing the arcade. Because I had them all. Like all the characters in the arcade were there. I didn't have to make anything up. So what else can you say about TMNT? We did the Let's Play. We did the whole episode.
Nice. If you're talking about like those 4-player beat 'em ups, that's
it's the king
tops.
for me.
Yeah.
It's the king, and there are a lot of good ones to pick from.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I really didn't pick Simpsons, is because I felt like I've got Turtles, and that's like representing.
It represents that genre of game. Yeah, I hear you. And I had to land on the Simpsons because I was such a fan, and that if you were a fan of that cartoon or show, and you saw they represented them so well, man, so faithfully. They didn't mail it in. Like a lot of times in those days, if you had a licensed game, it felt mailed in all the time. Like they didn't really put any effort into it. But in those arcades, they really treated it with care. Yeah. Made it a really good game. So, yep. So that's our number 5. Is that where it was?
Yeah.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 4.
We're getting down into it now.
So
probably pretty predictable at this point.
So however you want to pronounce it. Galaga.
Yeah. One of the all-time Granddaddy great classics.
Oh yeah.
That game is so playable still to this day.
Yeah, so 1981.
And you can actually still find it in arcades.
Isn't that great?
It's awesome.
It's one of like 2 games in our top 5 that's still very easily findable.
Yeah.
So Martin ranked that 3rd on his list.
Pretty strong.
I was 10th.
10th. Still pretty strong.
And you
7, I think. 7th, yeah.
Okay, so all of us had it in the top 10.
Yeah.
So, Galaga, the sequel to Galaxian, which is where the whole pronunciation thing, I guess, gets, like, it's,
Galaxian, Galaga.
argument that it's for sure Galaga.
But we grew up saying Galaga. So
Not a person, not a single person pronounced it Galaga.
Even if it's...
I don't think I've ever heard
even if
it's like the whole, like, GIF thing nowadays, like with computers and graphics.
It just sounds so weird.
We know it's GIF.
Even if it is correct, it sounds so weird, and
I'm going to continue to be defiant, call it Galaga. I don't care. But, I love that game. I mean, like, I want the dual ships, even though you never keep them for long.
Yeah.
If I'm going to play Galaga, something has to happen. That's the one thing that has to happen. I have to get a ship captured.
I'd gladly give up that life to have the dual ships.
Even if it's my last life. And there have been times when I've lost, like, I've been captured and then run out. And I'm like, oh, the game's over. I don't care. It was worth it.
Carry me away.
Yep, that's the end of the game. But yeah, even if I know I only have one life left over there, and even though I know, like, I'm gonna, not last, but, like, not even make one stage through. Because, I mean, you become so big, that hitbox is just doubled.
And if you manage to keep it to the challenge stage...
So much easier.
Yeah, that's the bomb.
It's hard not to clear it when you got the 2.
Yeah. I love the challenge stages, though.
The challenge stages
cool,
are great.
Little breaks.
Yeah. That's a great little thing, those little intermission challenges. You could die. It was just like, it was a bonus.
Yeah.
And it was challenging to do it with just one ship. But, I mean, that's why I would always sacrifice that ship, just so I could make it to that challenge round. And another thing, too, is I would like to try and save as much as I could. Like, I would pick all those ones off except for that one, because there was only a certain enemy that you could do it with.
Yeah.
I'd try and clear as much as I could, just so that I could make sure I made it to the
A little bit of strategy to it.
A little bit,
nice, yeah.
But, that's like a game like Frogger, where, I could get deep into that game and, feel like I accomplished something, and it wasn't super hard. As long as you weren't giving up ships, like, getting the capture, you could last a long time in a quarter.
Yeah.
Do you remember the PlayStation version of Tekken when it came out? That for the loading screen, and as the game was loading, it had the challenge mode of Galaga.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
play that.
That's cool.
That kind of made me want it. To be honest.
And did you know though that if you got perfect, like on every one of the, and I forget how many there were, like 4 or 5, I don't remember. That it would unlock the boss character Heihachi in Tekken that you could play as him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Maybe I knew it at the time, but I don't remember it now.
Or actually, I think it was Heihachi you could unlock. You unlocked something. And but anyway, it was super, super hard.
Well, it was hard to do.
I looked up and memorized like what the patterns to like where they were coming down, and I finally.
Well, yeah, I guess I never took the time to memorize, because you could memorize. They always came out in the same place.
Yeah, so if you knew where they were coming from, then you could do it. But it was super hard.
Yeah.
Still,
Still, yeah. Because you still had to make sure you didn't get hung up on a fire,
And and it's at that time that all your saved games were like on those little memory cards.
Oh yeah.
And so like I wrote on there like this memory card's Tekken, like never delete. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. Galaga is just super awesome. I don't even know what to say about Galaga. It's a really simple game. Oh, and it's another one of those games that it's a game that when I was mentioning earlier about Space Invaders, you don't get Galaga without Space Invaders. It's basically the same game.
Yep.
It's the only difference being that the enemies actually come down after you in a pattern or whatever. But
you don't have the shields either. But
no, you don't have the shields either. But it's an alien invader coming down. And the only thing there's just the ship. Yep. But let's talk about Galaxian too, because it's a game that's the sequel of. But why is it that we don't like Galaxian as much?
I didn't really play it that much, honestly. I never really saw it in that many arcades.
Well, because it's older, and it's already past its time, and Galaga's in the door.
Yeah, and Galaga's always stuck with us, so
I mean, because of that whole timing thing and our age, I never realized Galaxian even came out first.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Same.
I thought for some reason that it was a sequel to it for a while. But you know, I know they added that whole ship capturing thing in the sequel. That was unique to the series.
Yeah, I don't know. They just you know, they improved upon the formula with Galaga. And
Fair enough. But like these little arcades that we were talking about, the Cracker Barrel arcades, like why does it have to be?
I mean, it's just like when Martin was saying in the
Mario
in the last episode.
It's me, Martin.
But you know, it's just like Martin was saying in the last episode where he played Super Mario Brothers before playing Mario Brothers, so he didn't really like it that much.
Yeah,
right.
Well, we played Galaga before Galaxian, so we don't like it.
Yeah, you can't be expected to take something that's been perfected on and go back to its predecessor, like Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 1, right?
Well, I don't know about it, because Street Fighter 1's awful anyway.
I guess Galaxian's still a pretty good game.
I think Galaxian stood on its own. I'm shocked Street Fighter even made a sequel. You know, honestly.
People liked it, I guess, enough.
I'm not sure who those people were, but...
well, hey, in that movie It, I mentioned earlier that... Have you seen It?
Not the new one, no.
Okay. Well, yeah, one of the kids, like, you know, it takes place over a summer, and one of the kids, right at the end of school, he's like, I just want to, like, you know, play Street Fighter and get good at Street Fighter, you know? So, like, one of the scenes, he's, like, runs to an arcade and he's like seen playing the original Street Fighter game. I was like, oh, that's funny. I got to tell Nick about that. So the kid's actually excited to go run and play Street Fighter, the original.
Wow.
So you must really like Street Fighter too. So yeah, cool. That's Galaga. It's if you don't know it, go out and play it. It's you can play it anywhere, on your phone, on your tablet, on your portable handhelds, on your Switch. You know, wherever it is, wherever video games can be played, you can play Galaga. And I also like, too, the scene in the Avengers where Tony walks in. And
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
He's like, all right, so what does that take us to next?
Number 3.
Number 3? Top 3.
Top 3. Drum roll. Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong. I love that.
Yeah.
Does it seem like the bass was turned up on that too?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Real thunderous.
Oh,
yeah, like when he would jump and where it, like everything would get crooked.
Yeah. So, do we include Donkey Kong Jr. in this conversation then, even though none of us picked it?
I would, because I did write Donkey Kong Jr. on my list, but I cut him off of my list just when I was, trimming the fat, just because I was like, well, I've got a Donkey Kong will represent.
Okay. And so we won't mention 3, right?
But yeah.
Well, what's wrong with 3? I mean, what happened to it? I mean, what were they thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. That was just
they cut Mario out for one.
Let's make something completely different.
Yeah.
Nintendo likes to do that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I guess they were just playing off the Donkey Kong name, just to get people to play it.
Well, they had that, they had the rights to Donkey Kong, so I guess they figured they had to make a game.
Yeah.
Because maybe you lose the trademark or whatever.
Maybe.
For so long. I don't know. But back to Donkey Kong. That's a great game. Yeah. And I think I had it a bit lower on my list too. Like, what did you made it all the way up to 3? So you guys had it way high.
Mine, I had it number 1.
Oh, that's both of our number 1s.
Yeah.
Where was it for me then?
So for you, it was 11.
And I bumped
Shame,
I know, and I bumped it
Come
up.
on.
Originally for me, it wasn't even that high. Like I had it around 13 or 14 or something, but I had to change the heart a little bit. Or it could have been higher on our list.
I think Donkey Kong is the game that I fell in love with the pixel. Because I remember being at an International House of Pancakes of all places before they called it IHOP, and I think maybe I told this story before, but
I don't think so.
Well, maybe not. But they had Donkey Kong there, and I would just go, we'd order our food, and so I'd ask if I can go just look at the game. And I'm not even asking for a quarter to play. I just want to go look at it. And I'm just looking and just, watching the track.
Sometimes the attract modes.
I love the attract mode.
Yeah, and I just remember just loving just the whole design of how all these little squares can create this picture, and just absorbing,
You are the Prince of Pixels, after all. That's your nickname that I gave you a while back.
I remember just watching the attract mode and just staring at the pixels forever.
Yeah. The game that put Nintendo on the map.
Yeah.
We all love Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
I always loved too that they would have like on the sides of like the monitor bezel where it would have like how to play and whatever, and then be like the drawings, and it would show the pixel perfect artwork of Donkey Kong, or really Jumpman Mario, and the jumping over barrels and everything.
We know him as Mario.
It would have that artwork on the side of the screen.
I like the pixels even in his teeth, like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, they're like little crosses.
Cool. It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful game. And I had it in an 11 or whatever, but I mean, it is one of the greatest of all time. Even made a documentary about it.
Oh yeah.
And we met the King of Kong or whatever
Billy Mitchell.
The villain of Kong, maybe?
Who's actually a really nice guy.
Yeah, very nice.
I had it because of those movies. I had it like in my mind, like he's just like this douche,
He sure. I guess he just plays that up. I think he enjoys that.
Yeah, because I remember even like reading that he was going to be there at the Arcade Expo. Like I didn't care.
I don't want to talk to that guy.
Who cares? But then when we met him, I mean, he was. Really
I remember. I wanted to say hi to him because he was selling his hot sauce, and he wasn't really selling his hot sauce. I think he was just talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I walked up to him, and I was just gonna say hi to him, But Billy, he comes over. He's like, "Let's go over here, and we'll pose for this picture." And he shakes our hand, and he's like, "What do you do?" He's asking us all these personal questions, and Nick and I had a change of heart, man. We were both just like,
and it was super interesting listening to him. When he was talking about Pac-Man.
He was part of a panel. He was there with the referee guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Pat Day.
Pat Day. So, and they had this really interesting little dynamic going on between them, Billy was the card, the silly guy, and he would kind of, they had this little scripted almost back and forth.
Oh yeah.
So,
they've been doing that for years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, Pat Day's the jockey.
Oh yeah, Pat Day's the jockey.
What the heck's his name?
I'm glad you went ahead and tried to catch yourself before.
Yeah, because as soon as I said that, I was like,
It's something Day though, right? That sounds so familiar. This is the guy who he's got that famous referee jersey on, and
he keeps all the high scores. In
yeah,
the game.
he was like
Twin
the guy.
Galaxy.
Twin Galaxies.
If I look at Twin Galaxies, I'll find him. There's a picture of him. So let's go.
I'll throw a picture up on the video in case you're not familiar with him. But yeah, Billy, they even they teased him in that cartoon or whatever. What was the show? The Adventure. Oh gosh, he's just basically like a giant head who comes out of an arcade.
Keep wanting to say Adventure Time, but that's not it.
It's something show, regular
Mordecai
show,
and Rigby. Yeah,
regular show. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mordecai and Rigby. Yeah. But from what I understand, he doesn't like that. I think he's offended by that. Who wouldn't be? I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that King of it's a King of Kong was the name of the documentary.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's like Billy and this other guy who's much
Walter Day.
Walter Day.
Walter
Okay,
Day.
thank you.
Day.
I thought it was Day.
Not to be confused with the jockey.
I was like, yeah,
Not the
Pat
Pat.
Day.
Not
so
the,
that's where I got Day from. I said Pat Day, I was like,
the greatest jockey of all time and a famous referee keeps the score of old arcade games. But yeah, it was like I mentioned earlier, arcade games was about the scores and not the finishing the game. Now that's what it's all about, finishing the game. Did you beat the game?
yeah.
But back
back then it was all about the scores, and they took it very seriously. Some people did. And Billy and that other guy, who was like the more reserved guy,
Weeby.
Yeah, they
Steve
had
Weeby.
that
Steve
rivalry.
Weeby.
Nice, good pull, Nick. You know, they had that rivalry, and Billy was the more boombastic. You know, like he was like the heel, a wrestling heel. In a way.
He's like always wearing those suits with like
that tie.
American tie. American flag tie.
Yeah, but he actually owned a chain of restaurants. That was his thing. It wasn't like his whole life was playing arcade games. He was actually a businessman.
Yeah.
But he obviously took that title, and he was actually there to demo Pac-Man, right?
Yeah.
He was showing off Pac-Man because he had a perfect score, right?
Yeah.
One of the few people early on that recorded a perfect score. So he was talking about all the like little things where you could get in. He showed how to get to that spot where you could go untouched.
That was really cool too.
It was neat because he would just set it up.
Get in that, set up the game, get in that spot, and then he just turn around talking to us. The
Yeah,
game's still running, but no ghost ever goes there.
Yeah, he's like, and here's the point where you could go use the bathroom or have a snack or whatever, and you'll never die.
That was really cool.
I'd never seen that happen before, so it was neat. He was a good sport and a really cool guy. So I'm sorry I doubted you, man, but that was neat. I really was impressed with that guy. But anyways, back to Donkey Kong. That was what he was known for. Pop culture wise, Donkey Kong is in everything. It was a big part of the Pixels movie once again. There was the Donkey Kong cartoon. It was just an 80s icon, I guess.
Oh, you got Donkey Kong right behind you.
Yeah, we got Donkey Kong back there. Mario and his villainous look. You know, where Mario took a turn for the villainy in Donkey Kong Jr. I actually like the way Donkey Kong Jr. plays over Donkey Kong, if I'm honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Donkey Kong's kind of stiff and unforgiving in a way that Mario Brothers is, I feel like.
I really like the mechanics in Junior, where like you can grab 2 vines and you climb up fast.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then get on 1 vine and slide down really fast. Yeah.
And so, I like knocking the fruit down.
So, climbing up 1 vine is really slow, and climbing down 2 vines is really slow. So, if you're going up, you want to grab 2. If you want to go down, you want to grab 1.
Stick to 1.
Yeah. I really like the different mechanics in that way.
Yeah, but Donkey Kong is the sentimental favorite for sure.
Yeah.
I saw it I have the fondest memories of Donkey Kong, I guess, in like a roller rink. Where do you guys remember? I mean, we've obviously seen it in places since then, but where do you guys?
I've already mentioned mine.
Well, yeah. The IHOP International House of Pancakes. Martin, what's your most memorable moment with Donkey Kong?
I'm not sure if I can remember the first time I saw it, but the first time I played it, it's just like, wow, this is tough just to get past the first board.
It's hard.
A lot of people can't even get past that first board.
That's the thing too. Is like I remember playing it when I was young, and then years went by where I never even saw it.
Yeah.
And I saw it again at like a card country or someplace. And I remember a kid like running to him and like, I can beat this real easy, because like I remember him talking about. I was just overhearing the conversation with his dad, because his dad was with him and he was like, "Oh, Donkey Kong." He's like, "This is easy," because I think he played the Game Boy version of Donkey Kong, so he was just more familiar with the more forgiving mechanics of it. And sure enough, he popped in the quarter and like died, like before he could even get to the second gear. Yeah, and he was just like, "This sucks," And
it must be broken.
Yeah, right. And in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe it's not. Is he wrong? I mean, is it just not as fun as what we remember? Do we just have those like nostalgia glasses on?
It's very challenging.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a challenging game, and the last time we were at the expo, I was just like, I can't stop playing this till I get past the first board. Yeah. I gotta beat the first board, and we did. I think we got a couple boards in. And I also like how the second level is like way different than the first level.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where suddenly you gotta like get the rivets, jump over the rivets to clear the boards. I'm sorry, you're gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, and a lot of the joysticks, I feel like very loose and very
worn out.
Yeah. So
it's tough to play like that.
I think that's a lot to do with it too. Like when you're playing it on like an emulator like MAME, and you've got a lot cleaner controls.
it does feel easier on an emulator. You're right.
That's a lot to do with it too. It's just the old arcade controls being a factor.
I think Donkey Kong is the all-time most earned. Well, no, it's another game actually, but it's in the top 5 too, as far as like earnings go and inflation. I wish I had my little factoids and stuff. I didn't really set anything up for this episode, but that was one of the things that I was gonna do was like earnings, like how much money the game's made.
As a factoid is the you were talking about the rivet stage. Well, that's actually like the last stage, like in the Japanese version, because when you clear the rivet stage, that's when Donkey Kong falls and you save Pauline. You got the little harp, because in all the other boards, Donkey Kong steals her away and climbs up the ladder before you get there.
Right.
So, because there's like, is it 3 or 4 boards? There's the main stage. There's the rivets. There's the pie stage. Oh, and the elevators. Yeah, so there's 4.
Oh yeah. And man, talk about hard.
I like the elevators.
The Japanese order is completely different than the American order, and that rivet is technically the last one. And like we said before, how all the games repeat.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rivet is technically the last, but the American order is completely different.
Huh. Interesting. Hey, when you guys were going to school for gaming developing, didn't you guys have a teacher who was working on a Donkey Kong game?
Super Donkey Kong. For what was it for? ColecoVision or something? Yeah.
That never got released. That must have been a treat to be able to play that or whatever. Because he brought it in, didn't he?
Well, we were super bummed to find out that he ended up not being able to find it. Yeah. But yeah, he was working on kind of a home version sequel of Donkey Kong, so to speak. That not really official Nintendo kind of a thing, but
gotcha.
For like ColecoVision or something like that.
Still pretty awesome though. Yeah. To be part of making anything in the Donkey Kong canon, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else? I mean, what else is there to say about Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr.? They're just classic, as arcade as it gets, right?
Yeah.
It's
the one for me.
It's Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
And it's sad too that Nintendo. I mean, not sad, I guess is the word, but I would be interested to see what else Nintendo could have accomplished if they had also put efforts into arcade making and not just console making. Because they did stop cold turkey after the NES came out. So, they had that roots of arcades.
I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, I guess you're right.
Point.
So, I don't know. Alright, so that's number 3, right?
Yep, so number 2.
Number 2,
and interestingly enough, you ranked this one higher than I did. Which,
really?
when you see what number 2 will be, you'll be very surprised.
Okay.
Street Fighter 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what did you have it ranked?
I ranked it number 4.
Really?
Wow.
Martin also ranked it number 4.
And I had it number 2.
And you ranked it number 2.
I thought you were the bigger Street Fighter fan.
I thought I was too.
Well, I was a big Street Fighter fan for sure. Not really maybe as big as Nick, but arcades really started in earnest for me, like with Street Fighter 2. I became not only obsessed with the game in arcades, but going to arcades.
Well, that for me, it was just kind of a second coming. Because I was huge at the arcades for, like those classic 80s games. And then Street Fighter 2 was like, now it's the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I was big in the arcades too back in the 80s. But I guess I could have all the Street Fighter 2 I wanted, I feel like, by the time it came out. And it was everywhere.
Even Walmart.
It was
Walmart. That's where I played it the most.
Gaddy's, all of the arcades, obviously, Aladdin's Castle, and they would have 2 or 3 of them. It wouldn't just be one version of Street Fighter 2. They'd have multiple versions.
And the funny thing was that we all just right off the bat picked Street Fighter 2 and did
World Warriors
weren't going off of like, well, this one was better, and then having to combine them all. That we all just picked that one.
We all just respect the first one so much.
Yeah, and obviously, later ones are better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's
no
like
argument
say that we just.
But it was just more of the greatness. And you could argue that others were better. But for me, it was like it just added more things. Like more fighters. It's not like the gameplay was a whole much better.
Yeah. I mean, the others improved upon. Just kept adding things. Mm-hmm. But Street Fighter 2, that vanilla Street Fighter 2 started the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then came Champion Edition, and then came Turbo, and then Super Turbo, on and on and on.
It would never come out. It tightened things up so perfectly. The original Street Fighter had like the kicks and the punches, and that wasn't a new thing necessarily. But it felt like they really balanced things so well.
Because like the original Street Fighter had the fireball and the hurricane kick and the dragon punch, but it was like so sloppy in the execution. There was like you couldn't just do the quarter circle and the punch button to throw a fireball. The only way I've ever been able to do it is just shaking the joystick and hitting buttons.
Something's gonna happen eventually.
And hoping for the best, and then he'll throw one out and you get excited, and then you just go crazy again, and you can't just do it.
It's like trying to play that motion control version of the Switch Street Fighter.
Good luck.
It accidentally got a super power.
Street Fighter 2 comes out, and you can just execute it just on command.
Not only that, too, but they really did a great job of making all the characters interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody gravitated to their favorite, obviously, but I wanted to experiment with all the fighters.
Yeah.
Because they all had a cool thing happening with them,
Yeah, like on the Super Nintendo, I mean, I played through the game with everybody and beat the game with everybody.
Yeah. Same here.
And that was an awesome port on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, once you got a fighting stick, especially... Obviously, my little fighting stick that I got for Super Nintendo with the perfect control. Oh. Is it sitting over there? Yeah. Oh yeah. Music to my ears. Still good after all these years. You wanted to get that arcade stick to get that arcade feeling, and it was such a good port. You got the controller to go along with it. Hours and hours and hours I played that game at home.
Yeah, and there is at least one time that I have actually beat Street Fighter 2 on one quarter.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
At least once.
As who?
Ryu.
Yeah, you're a Ryu player. Always have been. I'm a Ken player primarily. Who was your go-to player, Martin?
I would probably say probably Ryu.
Ryu? Yeah. Cool. Did you have a character that you would play in a sarcastic way? He knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, was there a player that you would pick just if you were to beat your opponent, it would really rub it in? Like just
Dan. Of course, that's not on Street Fighter 2.
No, but he's for sure a sarcastic pick. I would play as Balrog. Nick would always go as the Chief. And he was very good with the Chief, But was there a character that you would pick that, well, I'm going to beat this guy with so-and-so to rub it in. It's an insult.
Yeah, I think it would either be from the originals, from Street Fighter 2, it would probably be Dalzim.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a while I was trying to get pretty good with Dalzim.
You did get pretty good, yeah. The noogie, the yoga noogie.
Yeah.
You sneak right in behind me.
I want to noogie you.
Yeah, he was a frustrating character to play against.
Stretching the arms and the legs out.
He was one of those
cheap
distance
shots.
players.
Yeah, totally cheap.
And, he would have that kick up high, so you throw out a slow fireball. Mm. So the guy tried to jump over it, you just kick him out of the air.
Yeah, you could frustrate a player pretty if you got good with Dalsy.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, and I remember that phase when you were seemed to be playing a lot of Dalsy.
Yeah.
And if you would lose, you'd go back to Ryu or whatever. We all did. We'd all run back to our guy.
All right, take the kid gloves off.
Yeah. But yeah, you landed on Zangief. It feels like that became your second guy, really.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
I miss the feeling of competition at that game. Like, it was very respectful in most cases. Like how you play a person and they weren't smack talking for the most part. And if you could beat a smack talker, that felt great. But most times, most people were just like, "Wow, good move, man."
That's what I absolutely miss about the arcades and that social aspect of it that you don't get online.
Yeah.
And I don't play these games online.
Yeah, playing Street Fighter like 5, for example, online would just not be nearly as satisfying.
No. Yeah.
As playing like Street Fighter 2, like in an arcade, next to somebody. And that doesn't go away. Like we at expos and stuff, we'd play guys, and they're really good players, and they're still very respectful.
Yeah, was it last year or was it the year before that?
I don't know.
We were playing that one guy on Street Fighter. It was like Champions Edition. One of them, I forget which one.
Yeah, he was skilled.
And he was kicking every one of our butts, and none of us could beat him. Like, I would beat him like one round, but never once beat like both rounds.
Yeah, and he would
still, that was such a blast. I loved it.
Yeah,
it was such a good time.
And I think we both beat him like a handful of rounds, and he would like turn to me like, "Wow, man, good job,"
Yeah, and everything was so respectful.
You could tell it was getting his goat a little bit, like he would like perfect us the next round or something. Yeah. I never felt like I was really gonna beat him,
Yeah.
And if I did get him on the ropes, I'd get super nervous and get jerky with get sloppy with my combos or whatever.
I kept thinking, I can do this. I can do this.
Part of me is thinking I could beat him.
It never happened though. But it was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I always look forward to that experience when going to that expo. Like, am I going to get that? You don't get it every year. We go every year, and it rarely happens, unfortunately, to get a guy out there. Most people just want to go play their game, play with their buddy, and then move on to another game.
Yeah.
Nobody, hovers on a game and sticks with it for a long time.
Yeah.
But, we just did a whole tribute episode for Street Fighter, so we've kind of covered the bases. I'm really interested in, hearing, what Martin has to say about Street Fighter, his favorite character was Ryu, obviously. Do you remember the first time you saw Street Fighter in the arcade?
I think it was probably, at a Walmart.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
And that's where I played it the most, was at a Walmart.
Mine was a bowling alley, was the first time I saw it. And it was already, the hype had already begun. I'm in high school. I think I was a freshman at the time. And, so I'm already hearing my friends talk about playing it. And so I'm at a bowling alley for whatever reason, and I see one, so I'm like, okay, so I pull out some dollars and I get some quarters,
Oh yeah, down by U of L, right? I think I remember you
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
And but they did have it there, and I remember it there. But yeah, so I was checking out, just going through the roster, seeing who felt good. Which at the time I landed on Blanca, but.
I think I played Blanca early on. You did the electric shock. It's something real easy to do.
You just hit buttons and you're like, oh, I did something.
Yeah. I think Guile was the character that interested me first. It took me a little while to get to Ken. Maybe it was because he was the American fighter. I don't know. Yeah. I thought he looked kind of cool, and I went with him because he looked like a G.I. Joe or something.
I remember coming back though to school and. I played Street Fighter 2, and yada yada. How do you do a fireball? Tell me how you do a fireball. And it kind of, you learn from there.
Yeah, and we haven't said this yet somehow in either of these 2-part episodes, but this is all pre-internet, really.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it was all kind of word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah.
Magazines
were basically everything.
Yeah, you would get those strategy guides.
Yeah.
That's where you learn the moves, and then read strategies and stuff. Obviously, for a strategy guide, but so if it went for magazines, you'd have no idea. They didn't spell it out for you how to do this stuff, like some other games might. But Street Fighter 2 and all of its sequels.
Because I remember in reading in a magazine how to do Zangief spinning pile driver. It's like telling you to do a 360, and it's like, well, how the heck
What?
do you do that?
What does that mean?
You're gonna jump if you do a 360.
I still can't really do it ever.
Because I never really got the concept in my head that you could like jump towards the guy
while you're
spinning
spinning
the joystick and land and hit punch and pick him up and do it. Like I'm just thinking like you're standing there,
yeah.
Which I can actually kind of do now, but when you're learning it, you're like, how the heck do you do that?
Yeah, once you wrap your brain around that, you're already falling down, and then you do it. Yeah, it makes more sense. Yeah, you're right. If you jump up, if you press up on the joystick, you're jumping. There was no jump button.
How are you gonna do a 360? You're gonna jump.
Remember thinking how cool it was to like block and things like that? Pulling back and you're blocking attacks. Very cool for the time.
Yeah.
And the throws, those cheesy throws. Yeah. And if you beat somebody on a throw, it would actually have the picture of cheese.
We always apologize.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to own that victory. I'm sorry.
That was in Alpha. That it had the little icons.
Oh, is that where that cheese came from?
Yeah, well, and the cheese was actually, I think, chip damage from doing like a super move, and the person just didn't have enough energy to block it.
Yeah.
I think that was the cheese, because there was a little lasso, like a little rope, that was for throws.
Wonder where the cheese came from. Does it feel like we were saying cheese, like, during Street Fighter 2?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we would say that it was cheesy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
you're right. Nobody wanted that because it was very powerful.
You would make agreements like before the match begins, like no throws,
no throws, right?
And then if you did throw, it was like, oh, I'm sorry,
I didn't
Here, you can throw me.
Throw me. Yeah. It's like get a free punch in.
Honorable fighting in Street Fighter.
It was
2,
very
right?
honorable, man. Yeah. They're good players anyway.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of fun too when like a little kid would come up, like I'm gonna toy with this kid like a cat does a mouse. Come on, jump into me. That's okay. Yeah. Get dragon punched back on your back. And too, like that was a game where like you really could take advantage of button pressers. Like skill mattered in that game.
Yeah.
Big time. You really couldn't just button press like in a Tekken game and win some rounds. I mean, I guess you could if you had a couple button mashers together. But a button masher versus someone who has skill, you have no chance, man. Mm-hmm. No chance. And watching these competitive Street Fighter players, too, are insane. Like that video that you were talking about, like I think in our episode, where the guy was doing the parries again and again and again and again.
Yeah, from Street Fighter Third Strike.
Yeah, he was like parrying like Chun-Li's super move and stuff.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like a 15-hit combo, and he's like parrying like every single hit of it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, Street Fighter 2, I mean, what can you say? Watch our tribute to Street Fighter if you want to hear more Street Fighter talk.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's move on to the grand finale.
All right, so
what's our numero uno?
Drum roll.
Number one.
Don't already know.
Let's do drum roll. So, I mean, you probably guessed what the number one is since we haven't mentioned it yet.
Smash TV.
No.
All right, so yeah, we combined together Pac-Man / Ms. Pac-Man.
Yep. Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man, the granddaddies.
Yeah, so
the actual number one moneymaker is Pac-Man.
And you had put Pac-Man as your
I actually
number
did
one.
have both Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man in my lists. So.
Oh, that's right. And you edited your list when we decided to combine.
Yeah, I added a game in that didn't make the list.
Didn't make the cut.
Yeah, it came in at 20. I think I had Pac-Man at like 11 and Ms. Pac-Man at number 1. Because everyone agrees that Ms. Pac-Man is the better game. The game that was so ingrained in our pop culture that there was actually a disco version of Pac-Man.
Oh, right.
Pac-Man Fever.
Yeah.
I had that 45 on the vinyl, man. I listened to it all the time.
Nice.
I had Ms. Pac-Man at number 2, and Martin had Pac-Man at number 2.
Yeah, I played the original Pac-Man first and had a lot more exposure to that one. It wasn't until later that I really saw a lot of the Ms. Pac-Man.
Yeah, which Ms. Pac-Man, and that's why I picked Ms. Pac-Man is because, yeah, I recognize and respect what, Pac-Man laid it all out, but just Ms. Pac-Man's the better game. It was faster, unless you had like one of the hacks that had like the speed button for Pac-Man. Then
which those are insane.
Then it made Pac-Man more.
And I'd like to say that for me, that speed hack for Ms. Pac-Man makes it way more enjoyable.
And you were like, well, this Pac-Man was faster than Pac-Man. But that speed hack is something you see in every Miss Pac-Man arcade now.
I see like the button to speed up more often in Pac-Man than I do like any kind of a hack for Ms. Pac-Man, because Ms. Pac-Man is just already faster.
Yeah. But yeah, you often see Miss Pac-Man and Galaga in that little, combo arcade movie theaters and whatever. They're timeless, dude. They're timeless.
Yeah.
And but Pac-Man, I had to put it in my it wasn't, I don't think in my 10. I think I had it all 11th or 12th originally. It is the game that made arcades explode. I mean, Space Invaders was the first blockbuster, but if Space Invaders was Jaws, then Pac-Man was E.T. You know what I mean? It was the all-time greatest, highest grossing video game. It had cartoon series. I had bed sheets of Pac-Man, comforters, sleeping bags, lunchbox cereal, the little Coleco thing or whatever you mentioned. I had that. I had the disc. I had the Pac-Man fever. I mean, I had it all.
Literally,
glasses. I remember having glasses.
Oh yeah, the glasses. Those are cool.
Yeah, I had the board game with the little Pac-Man. So I respect Pac-Man so much. I have more love for Pac-Man than Miss Pac-Man, but Miss Pac-Man is just a better game.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. I had at one point Pac-Man #1, and I kept changing my list. This list was really, really hard for us to do. Up to the last second, we were agonizing over this list, trying to make it right. But, I was do I really want to put Pac-Man #1 with all these other arcade games that were more fun for me to play? And I just ultimately decided not to. But I was happy that we landed.
You do have Pac-Man #1. You do.
I have Miss Pac-Man #1.
Well, then you changed it on me.
I might have. I don't know. But yeah.
Still undecided.
The final list, I had Miss Pac-Man 1 and Pac-Man 11th or something like that. But I did toy with the idea of Pac-Man being my #1 because I just have so many nostalgic memories of Pac-Man. I saw it way more in you. I remember seeing Pac-Man in the wild more during the 80s than Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd only seen Miss Pac-Man in a handful of convenience stores or whatever, but Pac-Man was everywhere. I played Pac-Man in Walgreens and stuff. I remember seeing it anywhere. Not even your convenience stores, but drugstores for crying out loud.
Laundromats and things.
Laundromats for I remember playing Pac-Man in a laundromat.
Yeah.
People sell them a lot. There are so many Pac-Mans made and distributed over the years.
Yeah.
You could probably find a Pac-Man arcade pretty cheap, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Miss Pac-Man's the king or queen, whatever. And it's a different game. It really is more than just Miss Pac-Man with a bow. Remember the old commercial or whatever would say, I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow.
Right.
You had the fruits, whereas before Pac-Man just had what was it, a Pop-Tart or something in the middle?
No, Pac-Man's got the fruit, but it was
that was the Atari version, I guess. That had Pop-Tarts.
The big square. Yeah.
Oh man, can we talk about that Atari version of Pac-Man for a second? Almost bankrupt Atari or whatever.
Because of how awful it was.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. But I mean, we were hungry for any kind of Pac-Man that we could get back in the day, even if it was a little Coleco LCD. Pac-Man never even changed directions. He would just kind of, even if he was going left, he would just go like that. He would just kind of back up. But I mean, when you think Pac-Man, even, those certain style of cartoon eyes, I always think it's the Pac-Man. I see Pac-Man in the eyes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the pie cut eyes.
Yeah, pie cut eye, which really, that's all Pac-Man is. It's just a pie with a piece cut out.
Yeah. It's the most basic character.
It's super basic.
Yeah.
I really like that scene from Scott Pilgrim where he's trying to impress the girl with knowledge about Pac-Man. Scott Pilgrim for me was I like the movie a lot. You guys are looking at me blank what is that? Did you ever see Scott Pilgrim Saves the World?
No. I read the comic and I've seen the movie.
I know. But anyway, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. What else can we say about Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man? Pretty. No, how did they go again? It was what for you again?
What, the number? It
Yeah.
was number 2 for me.
Number 2 for you.
2 for me.
2 for me and 1 for me. Okay. Yeah. So it had to be 1.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I feel pretty good about this list.
Oh, yeah. Good list.
I think it's a great list.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong, the top 5. So, number 1, Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man.
Yeah, recap the, can we recap from 20 to 1 just again real quick?
Oh, all of them?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Just read them off.
No commenting, just to recap.
So starting at 20th, 20, Mario Brothers.
Yep.
Mario Brothers, not Super Mario.
Not versus, or, yeah.
19, Afterburner. 18, The Simpsons. 17, Ninja Gaiden. 16, NBA Jam. 15, Metal Slug.
Oh, yeah.
14, Outrun. 13, Spy Hunter. 12, Star Wars.
Should have switched that, right?
Nope.
11, Shinobi. 20, versus Super Mario Brothers. 9, Qbert. 8, Dragon's Lair. 7, Frogger. 6, the Mortal Kombat series.
Mortal Kombat series.
Yep.
5, the Ninja Turtles series. 4, Galaga. 3, Donkey Kong. 2, Street Fighter 2.
Mm-hmm.
And 1, Pac-Man / Ms. Pac-Man.
Cool.
Awesome list.
Yep. I'll stand behind that list.
Which, we can't. There's Junior Pac-Man. There are Super Pac-Man. There are other good Pac-Mans.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one. It was like a combination pinball /
Baby Pac-Man.
Yeah, Baby Pac-Man.
Oh.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. And we actually got to see that at the last expo, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't seen that. I only ever saw
I've
that
only
once
seen
in a
that
while.
one other time ever.
Same here. So it was a real treat to see that.
Yeah.
It was fun to play.
Yeah.
It probably should have been more popular, I think. Maybe it was one of those games that was just expensive and hard to upkeep or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very.
It was a pinball game too, so there's a lot of parts involved.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about with Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, or the list in general? Arcades. Anything you guys want to say about arcades?
I miss arcades.
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're still around in a way.
Yeah, the barcade scene is becoming more of a thing now.
That too.
Which
I
is
I was
really
thinking
cool.
more in terms of like the family hangout places like Dave and Buster's and Main Events and Malibu Jacks or whatever in your town.
Well, those tend to have like the new big screen arcade things, but the barcades will tend to cater more to
The classics that we care about.
But the
More
classics
80s and 90s. Yeah. The older stuff they can find.
I'm glad that there's that scene too, and most
definitely.
towns have their version of whatever that is. We'll have to try to get together at Rec Bar or something, try to record an episode or something. That'd be really cool. Maybe call them in advance, be like, you guys mind if we set up some cameras and some stuff.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got nothing else to say. Ladd's Castle was my place. I loved it. I missed it. I wish they were still around. I don't hang out in malls really anymore, but maybe I would more if the bookstores and arcades were still a thing.
Yeah.
But for this week, I've been Ron Avis.
I'm Nick Wright.
Martin Reimer.
Thanks for joining us again, Martin. And we'll
Thanks
see you
for
next
having me.
week.
See ya.
Later.